before going to histology, I will just tell about the macroscopic view. When you cut open the kidney, we just what do we see? Just macroscopically, what do we see? When we cut open the kidney, we find the outer cortex and inner medulla. So when we cut open the kidney, we find the outer cortex, which comprises mainly of the renal corpuscles, the proximal convoluted tubule and the distal convoluted tubule. And in the medulla, we find 8 to 20 renal pyramids, which are striated. So the renal cortex, it mostly consists of the renal corpuscles. Each renal corpuscle, it consists of a cup-shaped blind end, which consists of a tuft of glomerulus, tuft of capillaries. What is a renal capsule? It is a cup-shaped blind space which consists of the capillaries, that is the a tuft of capillaries, that is the afferent arteriole. It enters and divides into capillary loops and the eve. So this complex is called renal corpuscle, and this renal corpuscle, the Bowman's capsule, it consists of Bowman's capsule plus the tuft of capillaries, and within this tuft of capillaries we find some mesangial cells, which are contractile cells, and they are phagocytic in nature, and they also release some extra cellular matrix within the this space. So this Bowman's capsule, it has two layers, the visceral layer and the parietal layer. The parietal layer is lined by simple squamous epithelium, and the visceral layer, it is lined by the podocytes, that is the footplates of podocytes, which will form the glomerular basement membrane. Okay, so we'll go in detail with that when we come to it. Let me just tell the outline of this. So the cortex, it consists of renal corpuscles. Then the medulla comprises of renal pyramids. 18 to 20 renal pyramids are there, and each pyramid, it is striated. These pyramids are striated. And what causes striations in these pyramids? These striations are due to the collecting tubules, collecting ducts, then the vasa recti and loops of Henle. These striations are due to the loops of Henle, the collecting tubules, the collecting ducts and the vasa recti. And from the pyramids, we may see some striations going towards the cortex. So these are called the medullary rays, and these medullary rays also, they contain what are the constituents of these medullary rays? They also contain the collecting tubules, collecting ducts and loops of Henle. Then first, what is a renal lobe? A renal lobe, it is one pyramid along with the adjacent cortex, that is called a renal lobe. And what is a renal lobule? That is when the renal artery, which is the branch of the abdominal aorta, which is the lateral branch of the abdominal aorta, when the renal artery enters through the hilum of the kidney, it divides into segmental branches, 5 segmental branches. Then each branch divides into a lobar artery. Then this lobar artery, at the base, it goes and divides dichotomously at the base of the pyramid. So this apex of the pyramid is pointing towards the minor calyx, and the base of the pyramid is pointing towards the cortex. So when the renal artery enters, it divides into 5 segmental branches, and each segmental branch in turn divides into interlobar branches. And these interlobar branches will enter and it will continue till the base of each pyramid and divide dichotomously to form the arcuate arteries. And from the arcuate arteries, many interlobular arteries they arise from these arcuate arteries. And these interlobular arteries, they give the afferent arterioles to the renal corpuscles. So many renal corpuscles, they are stacked, 20 to 40 renal corpuscles are stacked one over the other in the cortex, and each renal interlobular artery will provide the afferent arteriole to the renal corpuscles. So, what is a renal lobule? That is the medullary ray in the center, and it is bounded on both sides by the interlobular artery. It is called one renal lobule. Renal lobule. And what is a renule? So I told you the renal lobe, one renal pyramid along with the adjacent cortex, renal cortex, that is called renal lobe. Medullary ray in the center, bounded on both sides by the interlobular artery, is called a renal lobule. And what is a renule? R-E-N-U-L-E, renule. That is, one renule is one branch of interlobar artery. The part of the kidney, the area of the kidney supplied by one interlobar artery is called a renule. So it almost encloses 1 to 2 pyramids along with the adjoining cortex. So that is a renule, which is supplied by, which is the cortical tissue or the medullary tissue, the renal tissue, which is supplied by one lobar artery. Supplied by one lobar artery is called one renule. Okay. So now we will come to, and these are the part of the renal cortex which is found in between the two adjacent renal pyramids is called renal columns of Buttin. And these the renal capsule, actually the renal capsule, it is the true capsule. It is surrounding the whole of the kidney, and it enters through the hilum, and it merges with the connective tissue. Then the whole of the minor calyx, the apex of each renal pyramid is pierced by 20 to 30 ducts of Bell. So they are pierced by this, and they will drain the urine into the minor calyx, and 2 to 3 4 to 5 minor calyx, they will merge to form one major calyx, which is the main constituent of renal pelvis. So renal pelvis, it is composed of mainly the fatty tissue, the blood vessels, and the this urine. It comes out through this. So there is a concept, what do you mean by micturition and what do you mean by urination? So micturition is a process of emptying of bladder through the urethra, but urination is elimination of urine from the kidneys without the involvement of bladder. structure. So what is the renal corpuscle? So renal corpuscle, it includes a blind sac that is called Bowman's capsule, which contains an afferent, a tuft of glomerular capillaries formed by the afferent arteriole and an efferent arteriole. This, the inner lining is by the footplates of podocytes. That is, the footplate of podocytes, they form. So we will go to the filtration barrier. So what is called a filtration barrier? So the footplate, this is one podocyte. It has primary foot processes and secondary foot processes. And it lies over the basement membrane. And the basement membrane, it shows three portions, and below the basement membrane is the endothelial cells. So the glomerular filtration barrier, it includes what is it is the space between the glomerular filtration barrier means it is the gap between the capillary endothelium and the foot processes. So first we see the capillary from when you go from inside out, that is the endothelial cells of the capillaries with a gap of, here in the endothelial cells of the capillaries there is a gap having the pores, and the diameter of each pore is 70 nanometer. What are the components of barrier? So the first component from inside out is the endothelial cells of the capillary, having a which are fenestrated and they have a gap of 70 nanometer. Then comes the glomerular basement membrane. It has a electron dense layer in the middle and electron lucent layer on both sides. So electron dense layer in the middle is sandwiched between the electron lucent layer on both sides. So this is called the glomerular basement membrane. So this within the radio dense layer, it consists of negatively charged glycosaminoglycans, which doesn't allow the albumin. So albumin is not allowed to pass through. So if there is a damage in the glomerular basement membrane in case of diabetes or glomerulonephritis, then what happens? This dense layer, it will allow the proteins to pass through. So this leads to proteinuria or albuminuria. So if you find albumin in urine, that means there is some damage to the glomerular basement membrane. And the third thing is the third component of the glomerular filtration barrier is formed by the foot processes. These are the foot processes of podocytes. So these are the podocytes lining the visceral layer. Podocytes lining the visceral layer of the Bowman's capsule. These podocytes, they line the visceral layer of the Bowman's capsule. So what I am drawing is the filtration barrier, that is between the filtration barrier formed by the from inside out endothelial cells of the capillaries, the basement membrane over which this capillary lie, and the podocytes they also lie, and the foot processes of podocytes. So these podocytes, they have primary foot processes which are parallel to the basement membrane, and the secondary foot processes which are touching the basement membrane. So these are the secondary foot processes and these are the primary foot processes. So these are the three components, and here there is between the adjacent foot processes there is the gap of 25 nanometer, so which forms the slit diaphragm. So these are the three components of filtration barrier. And here in the renal corpuscle, this is called the vascular pore. This is called the vascular pore, and just opposite to it, from where the proximal convoluted tubule starts, this is called the urinary pore. So now we will come to the renal. So the nephron, each nephron, which is the structural and functional unit of kidney, it is formed of renal corpuscle and renal tubule. So renal tubule consists of, so nephrons are again, I'll just tell you, the nephrons are again of two types, that is the cortical nephrons and juxtamedullary nephrons. The cortical nephrons, they have short loops and they are mostly towards the cortex, and they comprise of 85% of the nephrons. And the juxtamedullary nephrons, they are longer and they comprise of 15% only. And what are the parts of the nephron? So each nephron is made up of, the upper part is made up of the renal corpuscle. Then this renal corpuscle, it is continued by the proximal convoluted tubule. So this proximal convoluted tubule, we mostly find this proximal convoluted tubule in the towards the cortical region, and it is lined by simple cuboidal epithelium with brush border. That means towards the each cell of the proximal convoluted tubule, it is simple cuboidal, but towards the apex it has microvilli for absorption of amino acids, glucose, and it also has some basal striations as well as the lateral striations. So the brush border of the proximal convoluted tubule is due to the presence of microvilli, and these basal striations, on the lateral aspect of these basal striations, it has many mitochondria, which helps in the transport of ions into the proximal convoluted tubules. So this is ECT. Then comes here the loop of Henle. So descending loop, then ascending loop of Henle. So this descending loop and ascending, the thin ascending loop, they are lined by simple squamous epithelium. Actually, the here the proximal convoluted tubule, what it does, it actually the 99% of the glomerular filtrate is absorbed. Only 1% it is of the filtrate, it forms urine. So in the proximal convoluted tubules, it absorbs 85% of water, and it also absorbs glucose, proteins, amino acids, and other things. And that is the filtrate, the peritubular capillaries. The peritubular capillaries, they will also absorb certain water. In the Henle's loop, what happens? There is counter current multiplier system. So they will help, this descending loop is not permeable to water, it is only permeable to sodium, but the ascending loop is permeable to water, and so they will absorb sodium and they will drive out potassium with the help of sodium potassium pump is there, and with the help of ATPase, of course. So it helps in the absorption of water and sodium, but excretion of potassium. And in the distal convoluted tubule, Again there is reabsorption of sodium and excretion of potassium along with hydrogen ions. In DCT there is excretion of potassium along with the hydrogen ions, which helps in the acidification of urine. So in the distal convoluted tubules, the sodium water is also absorbed everywhere, but maximum water is absorbed in the PCTs. Henle's loop, it absorbs the descending limb, it doesn't absorb water, only the ascending limb absorbs water. The sodium, it also gets inside and potassium is secreted. In the distal convoluted tubule, what happens? There is acidification of urine by release of hydrogen ions. And here what happens? By release of hydrogen ions, the bicarbonate ions are absorbed. So this leads to acidification of urine. And there are certain differences between the proximal convoluted tubules and distal convoluted tubules when you look under the low power microscope. So in a low power, when you see the slide of kidney under low power microscope, we find the PCTs, they are large in number and then that of the distal convoluted tubules. Because the PCTs, they are longer in length than the distal convoluted tubule and they are more convoluted. So when you take a section, we get in one picture, we get more of PCTs than that of DCTs. And the PCTs, since they are brush bordered, they take up more stain and they look darker. But the distal convoluted tubule, they don't have microvilli. They only have the basal striations and the lateral striations along with the mitochondria on the lateral aspect of the striations, which help in the absorption of ions. Then the distal convoluted tubule, they have a larger lumen than that of the PCTs. And there are certain, these efferent, when the efferent arteriole, they come out, they will form the peritubular capillaries. And these peritubular capillaries, they help in the liberation of erythropoietin. So kidney also acts as an endocrine organ by liberating erythropoietin and renin. So erythropoietin is released from the cells of the peritubular capillaries and renin is secreted from the JG cells, juxtaglomerular cells and macular denser cells of the JG apparatus. We will come to discuss that. So the distal convoluted tubule will join with the collecting tubules and finally into the duct of Berry. So this whole thing, so the distal convoluted tubule is lined by simple cuboidal cells but no microvilli is there and it has basal and lateral striations. And here the collecting tubules and collecting ducts, they are lined by simple squamous epithelium. And these duct of Bellini, they will open into the apex of the pyramid. And now we will go to the JG apparatus. So, juxtaglomerular apparatus, what it does, it helps in the maintenance of the blood pressure. It senses the low sodium in the plasma and it helps in the proper maintenance of the glomerular filtrate. So what are the constituents of the juxtaglomerular apparatus? That is, what are the constituents? It is mainly formed by afferent arteriole, the distal convoluted tubule. When it comes nearer to the afferent arteriole, there are certain cells in the distal convoluted tubule. It is normally lined by simple cuboidal cells, but when it comes in close association with the afferent arteriole, these cells, they become tall columnar and they are compactly arranged. to form the macula densa cells. And here in the afferent arteriole, in the tunica media, there are smooth muscle cells, they will get hypertrophied. The smooth muscle cells, they will get hypertrophied to form the JG cells, juxtaglomerular cells. So, the juxtaglomerular cells are found as hypertrophied smooth muscle cells in the afferent arteriole, and the macula densa cells are tall columnar cells compactly arranged found in the DCTs, distal convoluted tubules. So to remember the macula densa, D component is there, so D for D, distal convoluted tubule. And in between some lattice cells are there. These are extravaginal cells or Poikelson cells. So these lattice cells, they are just present. So these are the three components of JG apparatus. And what do? They will sense the low sodium concentration in the blood, and these JG cells, they will help in the release of renin. So what does renin do? So renin, it helps in the conversion of angiotensin 2, angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, which is a vasoconstrictor, and in presence of angiotensin converting enzyme which we find in the lungs. So angiotensin 2 helps in the by vasoconstriction, it helps in increasing the blood pressure. And also the aldosterone, there is some effect of aldosterone. The sodium reabsorption of the distal convoluted tubule is also controlled by aldosterone, which is released from the adrenal cortex. So aldosterone it also induces the distal convoluted tubule to actively reabsorb the sodium, the chloride and water, and make the interstitium hypertonic. So the interstitium mainly the renal pyramid. The renal pyramid, in the interstitium, this apex is hypertonic. Middle part is isotonic. Towards the base is hypotonic. Okay. So, what is the pressure under which? So, here in the kidney, it has two systems, two arterial system. One is here in the glomerular capsule. First arterial system you find in the glomerular capsule, where the afferent arteriole enters and it divides and the efferent comes out. The efferent arteriole, the caliber of efferent arteriole is very less than that of the afferent. So it creates a pressure of 45 mm mercury. So that there will be glomerular filtration under this hydrostatic pressure of 45 mm mercury. So then glomerular filtration occurs here. Then in the renal interstitium there are peritubular capillaries. So these have a pressure of 25 mm mercury. So these divide into these peritubular capillaries. They are the second set of blood vessels. So these two sets of blood vessels we find in the renal system. So this, thank you.